All right. So when I first saw that the Golden State Warrior basketball player Kevin Durant was injured, I immediately thought that this must be some sort of staged or controlled event. And I wanted to clarify that because I don't think that every game or every play or everything that happens in professional sports is staged or controlled because that would be ridiculous. You don't have to do it. It's not scripted like, say, pro wrestling where they rehearse what they're going to do ahead of time. It's not a movie. But within the framework of the game, all you need to do is control a few plays, control a few calls, and you can control the outcome of the game. So you could play a regular game, and unless it's a blowout, the people, the powers that be, the people I call the controllers, can control the outcome of the game. All you need is to have one official and one player, basically, and on the player that you want to be on the losing side, and you can control the game. Because he just has to mess up a few. Most plays are decided most games are decided by a few plays here or there. So there are two reasons that I thought that this Kevin Durant thing might be a staged incident, and that was the first one was that his hometown is Washington D.C. and he just re-signed with the Golden State Warriors, and there was this narrative that he would come home and he would go and play for his home team, like LeBron James. So they put this narrative out there, and the Washington Wizards recruited him heavily, but he chose not to go back and play there. And the Warriors, who are a Western Conference team, and the Wizards only play two times a year, once in Golden State and once in Washington. So Kevin Durant had one game in which he played in his old hometown. It was a game that was at a pivotal part of the season, and it ended up being when he got hurt. The other thing is, if you look at the team that the Golden State Warriors have produced, I played basketball pretty much most of my life, and you look at this team, and it's probably the greatest basketball team in history, and it's far better than any other team in the league right now. So, barring an injury, they were basically a shoe-in, and there wouldn't be much money bet against them, given the fact that they're playing the way they are. Barring an injury, pretty much they were almost guaranteed to win. So the only way to change that in a narrative, to fix it for something else, for another person, another team, would be to create an injury or create something that stopped them from being as good as they are right now. Like last year, Stephen Curry got hurt during the playoffs, and then that made it plausible that the Golden State Warriors, who had the greatest record in history, would be able to lose the Cleveland Cavaliers, even though they appear to be the much better team. But him being hurt, it's now believable for people. But if he wasn't hurt, there'd be no explanation for them losing, and they probably wouldn't have lost because the margin of victory would be so great that you couldn't control it with a few calls and a few plays. And it'd be obvious that these guys were just packing it in, that they weren't playing hard and they weren't being themselves if they collapse. So they needed something like an injury to make it so that wouldn't happen. So it was believable. And so when I first heard Kevin Durant got hurt, plus LeBron James is a big time Freemason. He's always throwing up Illuminati symbolism. He has a relationship with Jay-Z. He's a gatekeeper and a pillar in the community. And he's made various deals, and they've been in charge of his narrative. So if they want Cleveland to win again, or at least have the chance to win again, make it believable, then they had to do something to Golden State, and they basically took out their best player in a way that either he's going to be hurt for the playoffs or he won't be 100% for the playoffs. And now it's believable that the Warriors might lose. So again, for betting purposes, for controlling the outcome of the narratives, this all works in an Illuminati agenda, what I call the controllers. It all works for them because it leaves some doubt now. But then I went and looked at the play, and it looked like an organic play. This guy, Zaza Pachulia, who was on Kevin Durant's team, falls to the ground, and he hits Kevin Durant's leg in a way that you could see it might injure his knee. It's believable that he actually got hurt on the play. So I said, I'm not going to make a video on this because it's just when you look at it, you say, well, it looks like he legitimately got hurt. And then I went back maybe about a half hour later because it was bugging me a little bit. And I looked at a couple different angles and I thought, you know what? This looks like it's possibly staged as well. And I have two possible narratives. This is my speculation that it's either acted and staged, or the controllers have a way, the Illuminati have a way of controlling these events that I haven't really touched on before, but I've been thinking about this maybe for about 6 months or a year. This idea comes to me, how they can control these events without actors or scripts. And I'll get into that in just a moment. Now, the first part is this. When you look at the play from a different angle, you see that Zaza Pachulia flops. He is battling for a rebound with this player, Marcin Gortat, I believe is the guy's name. And Gortat kind of, in a way, hooks him a little bit, but Pachulia just pretends to fall. You can see that he's flopping, which is a common thing in the NBA. I've covered that before, and that in itself is acting. He's choosing to go down. And so if you were going to stage a play where two players on the same team collide and one of them gets hurt, well, there would be flopping involved. There would be acting. So Gortat pushes him a little bit, and Pachulia falls down, flops. No foul was called on the play because there was no foul. Pachulia flops, and as he's falling, he's controlling his descent. He's controlling falling to the ground. He's slowing himself as he falls to the ground, and then he bangs into Kevin Durant's knee, and Kevin Durant's knee was straight, and yet he's able to bend it back really quickly as he moves away from Pachulia. And so, yeah, there might have been contact. This possibly could be a real injury. This possibly could be an organic event, but it also very well could be staged because Kevin Durant is slightly out of position where he should be moving more towards the baseline to get the rebound. He is really just behind these two players who are battling for position. Seems like an odd play in a couple of different ways. And if you were going to stage something like this, you would want to do it in the very beginning of the game where people are mental and the game hasn't progressed and these types of things. It's something where if you're going to act something out, it's a lot easier to do it at the beginning of a game. So this is one possibility, that this is some sort of like wrestling-like event where Pachulia falls down on purpose. Kevin Durant is positioned a certain way behind him, and they make it so it looks like he's been injured. So that would involve a couple of different players. 3 different players would have to be involved in this to make it to be like a pro wrestling staged event. So that there's a possibility for this. I think that it's plausible that this happened based on what you see. I'll leave links in the description box. You can watch the videos for yourself. But there's 2 different possibilities here. One, it's an organic event because there's evidence that supports that. Another, that this is some sort of acted out and staged event where the players are involved in this to create this narrative. And I also want to interject something. Aside from gambling, professional gambling and all these things, local gambling, whatever it is, just gambling on sports, there's reasons to control the outcome to the games there. But the other one is, I think everybody knows that sports acts as a distraction for people there would be real issues with the government, real issues with the monetary system. Sports and entertainment keep people hypnotized, keep people concentrating and caring about things while their lives are controlled and managed and manipulated by a controlling force. I think everybody kind of understands why so much emphasis is put on entertainment. And sports in general is there to help people relieve their aggression. And you have a very aggressive population, watches a lot of violent movies, is into aggression. America is a very aggressive country. And one of the ways to manage these aggressive tendencies is through the vicariously watching competitive sports where there's a lot of violence and a lot of physicality. And the only way that that'll work is if there's some sort of parity in the league where there's lots of local places that gets to win, local cities that gets to win a championship in one sport or another, and it builds like community, self-esteem, and it keeps people engaged. And so this is like we saw this in, say, the Hunger Games. It's a way to keep people from focusing in on certain problems. So we see this. This is why sports is the way it is. It's designed so that all teams get a chance to win, that all cities eventually get a chance to win, at least go to the playoffs, be competitive, because it keeps people engaged in these types of things. And so they don't want a dynasty or dominant teams. And so this fits in with this narrative about the Golden State Warriors. So here's the second possibility. And I'm just putting this out there, and I don't have any sort of material evidence other than the fact that we see that the controllers are able to control a lot of things, and maybe some of these things are organic. So let's say things play out without any scripts, without any actors, but they fall into place and they fit certain narratives. Like Kevin Durant going home to Washington, D.C. was one game all year when he's on a shoe-in to win an NBA title, and that's when he gets hurt. So this fits in with a narrative that builds intrigue, whether they allow the Warriors to win or not. It brings some mystery. It brings some controversy. It brings something for them to overcome, which everyone likes to see. No, there can't be an easy path directly to the championship for them. They have to overcome some things to keep people engaged, to keep people interested. And let's say the injury is organic, but we know in all these elections and things, let's say they don't control them as much as we think they do, that they are able through various types of spiritual, I don't want to use spiritual because it's not spiritual, but through energetic means, through like what people think about as voodoo or magic, or through using people's thought force, understanding astrological cycles, because one of the things that the controllers are really into is understanding the movement of the planets, the movement of energies. And I think if you live long enough and you're observant enough, you realize some days are meant for some things and some days are meant for others. Like some days are really bad to do business. Some days are really bad to go out on a date or a first date. Some days are really bad for playing sports, and some days are great for playing sports. You understand that energy changes on a day-to-day basis. And so there are days that are better for, there are periods of time that are better for creating a certain event. And we know that the controllers are really into understanding this and making sure they pick the right day for the right activity. And we see this time and time again. So if you understand this, that using thought force and using, I don't know what people consider spells, this kind of magic, these things, it's not really magic because some of these things are of a spiritual science, using one's abilities to control things, where they just have to put it out there that they want something to happen to stop the Golden State Warriors from their easy path to a championship. I hope people can understand this. They put up some sort of group consciousness. They focus their intention on this, and this is to control any event. And they don't have to pay actors. There's no conspiracy here. They're able to use their knowledge of the cycles of the, because they have different inside knowledge on how the universe works, how the world works, and how to manipulate material events. And we know this. We know this has been done for centuries. That's why people hired wizards. That's why they look into these types of cycles, whether it be astrological cycles or energetic cycles. And they're able to use consciousness. They're able to use this stuff like voodoo-like stuff to manipulate events and control events. And I think that this is becoming more and more a real possibility for me, that this is more often than not how they can create these events. They just have to put it out there. They have to choose a period of time for these things to happen, and they can just make it happen organically so it looks like it's real, but the people are being manipulated and controlled, like you would control a character in a video game, and you can control what happens in the video game by changing the code. There's a code for material life, and these people are programmers, and that's how they're able to manipulate the outcome of these events. So all I know is that, and if you look at this objectively, you can see that this is there's a lot of coincidences here, and there's a lot of things that have happened with this Kevin Durant injury that fit certain narratives and make it better for the controllers. It just does. it makes the story more engaging. You understand this? We see this all the time where something happens and it builds intrigue by the way that it happens, the way that players and politicians and other people, actors and actresses, conduct themselves, that makes people engage with the narrative. It makes people say, you know what, this has become more interesting. It's a plot twist. This is a plot twist. Very convenient plot twist for a lot of ways, and it's something for us to take a look at. All right, so this is Paul Romano reporting from the apocalypse. Everybody have a blessed day.